Welcome, everyone, to the Planners Who Profit podcast. I'm excited to be back here to deliver inspirational stories and tips for the event planning community. Now, if you've known me for a while, you know that one of my core beliefs as a coach to event planners is that if your business is bringing in part-time money, you should be able to run it part-time. So to make that a little bit more concrete, I believe that if you have 10 or fewer clients every year, you should be able to run your business in 4 hours a day, 5 days a week. That's my definition of part-time, right? And of course, you may spend some extra time on event days running weddings, but at the core, you should be working 4 days a week, 4 hours a day, 5 days a week, and that is your part-time business. And I also believe that it's very possible to build a six-figure business part-time. I believe it because I've done it and because I've seen other event planners do it as well, which brings me to my guest for today. Today, we'll be meeting with Courtney-Rose Dantus, who's the owner of Dantus & Co. Events, an event planning company based in Maryland. I'm in Maryland too, so that's exciting, and with a focus on multicultural weddings. She's also a wife and a mother of one little, and she was able to grow her business to six figures while maintaining a day job. After this short break, she'll be joining me to share more about her business and her story. Planners Who Profit Live is our annual event that celebrates event planners of all kinds every single year, and you absolutely cannot afford to miss it. All right, this is the event to come. Bring your friend, bring your assistant, bring your associate planner to really immerse yourself in next level thinking, next level strategies, and to get refreshed for your next event season. Visit plannerswhoprofitlive.com and register to join us for this event. The experience is phenomenal every single year. The community is truly next level, and the things that you learn are truly actionable. This is an investment both in yourself and in your business that you can't afford to miss out on, all right? So make sure that you come, bring your team, tell a friend, and we can't wait to see you in person at our very next Planners Who Profit Live. We can't wait to see you there. Welcome back, everyone, and welcome Courtney-Rose to the podcast. Hey, welcome. So glad to see you as always.
Yes, it's so great to be here with you. Thanks for having me on.
Of course. It's always great to hear from you. So I guess before we go too far, can you please introduce yourself and your business? Like, let us know how long you've been in business and just introduce your business in your own words.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, I'm Courtney-Rose Dantus. I am the owner and principal planner of Dantus & Co. Events. And Dantus & Co. specializes in special event and wedding planning and design in the greater Washington, D.C. area and beyond. And our clients are usually busy professionals. They love details. They often want to incorporate several cultures or religions into their big day, and they need a planning team who gets it to help. And also, as of 2023, we're offering travel planning services for life's big moments for both our wedding clients and other clients as well.
Nice. I love it. And how long have you been in business?
So I first opened Dantus & Co. Events in 2014. So this year marks 9 years.
That's exciting. How does that feel to say that out loud? It's been 9 years.
It feels good. It does feel really good to have the resolve, to stick with something as long as I have, and to also really see it mature in a way that it has to today. So that's really exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I believe a little over 50% of businesses don't make it past the 5-year mark, right? So I think that once you make it past the 5-year mark, that officially makes you seasoned. It means you're in it to win it, right? Mm-hmm. And obviously there's more work to be done because everyone wants to grow, you want to scale, you want to make more money, you want to get into new markets, right? But making it to 9 years is definitely a major milestone. And of course, there's another milestone right around the corner when you hit 10, which is really exciting. So that's really, really cool to celebrate and to share with everybody who's listening on the podcast. All right. So are there any major guiding principles that you normally use in your approach to event planning? So are there any guiding principles that you and your team tend to follow or that you could share, of course, to all of our listeners, most of whom are event planners?
Yeah, definitely. So there are definitely 4 guiding principles in my business that both myself and my team utilize with all of our events. And those are inclusivity, approachability, advocacy, and honesty. Um, so, with inclusivity, we want every wedding we work on to be inclusive of all couples, all heritages, religions, sexual orientations. That's very important to us. Um, with approachability, our goal is to make planning approachable and stress free for every couple. With advocacy, we serve as an advocate for our clients. We really want to amplify their desires and wishes against the voices of maybe vendors or family members or friends, or even trends that might be steering them into a direction that they don't really want to go in. And then finally, honesty. We love our couples so much. And because we do, we always promise to be real with them, even when it might be a little uncomfortable or awkward to have a conversation about maybe money or maybe something they want to do during their celebration that maybe may not be the best fit based on our experience. So we sometimes we have to have those hard conversations, but our clients really appreciate us for it.
Yeah, those are solid principles. I mean, I love that. And I think everybody could learn and just glean a couple things from what you said. I love, the honesty. That's a huge one for us at Statuesque Events. A lot of times people tell us, like, we hired you because we know you're going to tell us the truth. And I believe a different spin of that. Like, what I always say is, I'd rather hurt your feelings and to tell you the truth before the event versus on the event day trying to explain to you why you didn't get what you were envisioning, right?
Mm-hmm.
Tell you the truth ahead of time. It might hurt your feelings. You get over it, hopefully, in a couple days. We'll look at the alternatives and look at what actually needs to be done so that on your day, you're happy, right? And you're not with like all these surprises. So I think that's a major one for us as event planners, especially because many of us, I feel like this could be a whole nother podcast episode, but many event planners are people pleasers. We want people to be happy.
Yes.
But the ultimate goal is for people to be happy on their event day, not like, happy throughout the planning process and caught off guard on the wedding day. So yeah, I love that. I love, everything you guys stand for, inclusivity, focusing on culture. And definitely advocacy is huge. I think a lot of times people, I remember the first time I planned a wedding for someone whose color scheme I think was cobalt blue and yellow. And, someone was like, "Oh, do you think that that's a good wedding color?" I'm like, "Any wedding color is a good, we're going to do what you want. It's just about making it elegance, which you were able to do. It got featured, all that good stuff. But we're going to do you, but we're going to make it elegant. I'm never going to say, oh, you have to have, the blush and gold and white wedding that everyone else does. So I think that advocacy is huge. And I think it's a big part of what makes certain planners stand out in this market when people know that, they're going to give me the best versus just pushing an agenda on me. I think that's excellent.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing. I love that. So, yes, I hope you guys have been gleaning these gems, and I hope that you are getting a better idea of why I invited Courtney-Rose to join me today. So, what would you say made you so passionate about getting into multicultural weddings? Like when we focus on the wedding side of your business, why is that a focus? Why is that something that you guys are excited about?
Yeah. So for me, it all began with my own wedding. And we were talking about the 10-year milestone for my business next year. This year actually marks 10 years that my husband and I have been married, which is like wild. But we are we ourselves are a multicultural couple. My husband is religiously and culturally Jewish, and I'm Black and a follower of Christ. And so when we were bringing together our two distinct backgrounds, it was a journey. There really was not a blueprint for us at the time. We didn't know what a wedding like ours could look like or be like. But we knew it was important for us to honor our families, honor our faith backgrounds. But we also wanted to forge and create something new together. Um, so again, it was definitely a journey and we did it. And it was beautiful and special and all of the things. But I knew that there could be an easier way. and that I wanted other people kind of going through that same journey to have somebody that could guide them through the process in a way that, you know, we didn't really have that guide. So that's kind of tying back to those guiding principles. You see all those things kind of very much come to play for us with the clients that the multicultural clients that we work with.
Yeah, yeah. No, I mean, I love that, and I love that. It's a personal story, but then also like something that you're excited about getting into. And I think that, um, you know, when people buy from other people that they know, like, and trust, right? So being able to articulate why you're passionate about what you do is so important. I'm sure everyone listening right now is like, oh wow, that sounds amazing, like, and hearing that story would make them more interested in possibly working with you, right? If especially if they fell into that category of multicultural weddings, and even if they didn't, because that's another thing about niching down. You get the people in the niche and people who just think it's cool, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that that's amazing that you're able to articulate that, and that's a huge gem for everyone, to know your why, not just for yourself, but to be able to articulate it to other people. Yeah, this past weekend we did a wedding. It was an Indian and Nigerian wedding that was interfaith. It was also intercultural, and they were really big on fully celebrating both of their cultures while also fully doing their own thing. So, yeah, and I always say, like you said, that there was no blueprint to follow. I feel like I wouldn't say that there I would say that every wedding to us is unique, right? Like we let everyone do their own thing in their own different ways. Uh, and I would say for them, like they did a lot of really cool things, right? Their entrance to the Nigerian wedding was a Jay-Z song. Like it was Big Pimpin', because they were like, that's just how we feel
I
today.
love that.
Like we're Big Pimpin' on our wedding day. And I thought that was cool. That I was like, that makes a lot of sense, but they did it in Nigerian attire while also fully honoring, the traditional engagement, while also having the parents do their entrances and all of that stuff. So I think that there is no one blueprint, like it has to be this way. But I think it's nice to work with someone who's willing to be flexible. I think that when you're working with multicultural weddings, um, you have to be flexible. It can't be like, oh no, a wedding is supposed to start and end at this time. Like like a ceremony is only supposed to be 30 minutes. Like you have to like be able to be flexible. And I think that that's where being able to articulate your heart behind what you do helps, because then people know that you understand and actually advocate for them versus just being like, I don't know what they're doing over there, right? And not actually helping. So I think that's awesome sauce. And so I have a quick question for you, because I think we're due for a quick break, but this is a big one. And especially for me, especially coaching others who focus on multicultural weddings, maybe focusing on the South Asian market, maybe African weddings, Caribbean weddings. A lot of people say to me, well, our people, how it is, people want everything, but they always expect a discount. Like, how it is. Like, and people always expect me to be like, yeah, 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 like it sucks. Like, yeah, it's terrible. Like people always want me to have that reaction, and I don't. But before I give my answer, I kind of want to hear from you. Like, what would you say to those who feel that way, who feel like it's difficult to build a profitable business, right? When you have a focus on multicultural weddings, what would you say?
Yeah. Yeah, that's such a good one. A good question. And I've certainly countered, those views during the planning process and meeting with different couples as well. Um, and I think there is maybe often like a misconception about like the complexity and logistics of these types of events, right? They are wholly different from a traditional wedding, um, because many times you have multiple events in one weekend. You might have multiple events in one day at multiple locations across the city. And they require so much more, right? Like you might be working with one vendor team at event A and a whole different vendor team at event B. You often require more staffing resources, like more coordination on the back end. So I think people just underestimate like how much goes into really producing beautiful multicultural events. And so we know as planners what comes along with more time on the back end, coordinating more staffing resources. Like we know that that's more bread on our end, right? More that we're putting out. Um, but I think the big thing for planners to keep in mind, right, is like we're bringing this expertise and like this special sauce to these events, right? Like we understand what it takes to execute these events, and that's a whole different skill set that maybe other planners who aren't as experienced with multicultural events aren't bringing to their own events, right? So we have to charge for that special value that we're bringing. And I think it's also important to realize that like not all multicultural events are the same.
Mm-hmm.
Like you could very easily have a multicultural event that is multiple six figures, and you could have one that has a $35,000 budget. Like they're not a monolith, just like you were saying. Like there really isn't a blueprint. The diversity within multicultural events is amazing. So I think um, we also have to bring that
Mm-hmm.
perspective to it as well. But I'm curious to hear what you would say to those naysayers.
Yeah, I love that. I love your perspective. I think for me, I just say, hey, like I built my core business servicing, for the most part, African weddings, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like we started focusing primarily on West African events and then getting a lot more into Ethiopian events, which are always a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
Then getting into cross-cultural events, which is like probably, you know, that became like our new thing, right? Where we're blending cultures. And that was the thing that helped us to grow, right? Was for us to have a specialty. And yes, we built a business where I was able to pay myself a salary and pay my team and all of that stuff doing that. That said, I would say that, and I would say, so number one, it's very possible. And I don't think you're going to be able to see it if you don't think it's possible. If
Mm-hmm.
you think, oh, everybody in my market, which is another thing I hate hearing. When people say, oh, everybody in my market doesn't value planning, meaning like everybody in my city doesn't spend money on weddings, or everyone in my culture doesn't spend money on weddings. If you keep telling yourself that, you're going to continue to attract those exact people,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because you're not going to step up to the next levels that you need to step up to attract the people who are outliers.
Mm-hmm.
My response to people who say this is, are there people in your market who are planning dream weddings of the cultures you want to do that are over the top, gorgeous, and all of that? If the answer is yes, that means that the issue isn't that those people don't exist. The issue is that they just can't find you.
Mm-hmm.
Or when they found you, they weren't able to identify that you could do this, right? Maybe you're not presenting yourself in a way that looks like you do high end events.
Mm-hmm.
So really, the onus always comes back on us. I say no matter where you live, no matter where you live. I have a client who lives in another country and she's like, "Oh no, you don't understand the cost of living here and this and that." And I'm like, "Ma'am, no. This is no, ma'am, no. This is not how it's gonna run." And at the end of the day, she also was able to build a six-figure business once we got past that thought process, right?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of us are limiting ourselves with our thought process. And I don't mean in like a woo woo way, like you're just wishing it away. I'm saying that thought process is causing you to run your business in a way that's pushing people away, right? So like that's repelling those people and continuing to attract people that align with what you believe. So I would say that. I also would say that at a certain point, you have to realize that you're not a business that's for everybody, right? Like most people, when you begin, yes, we're working with all kinds of clients, but at a certain point, when you become more experienced and you want to really make money, you're really shooting for those people in the slightly above average to high end to luxury markets, right? That's how you get there, which means those are the people you are pricing to attract and you're marketing to attract and all of that, right? And also, the last thing is the best way to get there. And I'm going to talk about this in another episode, but you have to eventually get way more leads than the number of people you can service. That way, someone's saying, "Oh, I need a discount. I'm only going to book if you give me a discount, or I'm only going to book if you charge this amount." It no longer phases you because you can't service every client anyway. So you're at this point trying to find the ones who are the right fit for you versus trying to get every single person who hits your contact form to book. So when you really free your mindset and like really step up as well, I think a lot of people are freeing their mindsets without stepping up their businesses, which we're going to get to after the break. But step up your business as well, you'll realize that there's so much more available, than you thought. So, I mean, this has been really, really great. Thank you. I hope you guys have fallen in love with Courtney-Rose as much as I have. We're going to take another really brief break, and then we're going to get back into marketing our way into the money in the multicultural market, which is the core of our conversation today. If you're an event planner who does amazing work, I'm talking your family, your friends, and your clients tell you that you do an amazing job, that you bring everything across the finish line and plan the most beautiful events, but now you're ready to actually make real money in your business and pay yourself monthly, it's time for you to apply to join the Planners Who Profit Accelerator Program. This 6-month accelerator program gives you the tools that you need to hit your first $70,000 to $100,000 a year, even if you are still working a full-time job. Our goal is to help you to build a profitable business so that you can leave your day job on your terms. To learn more about working with us in the Planners Who Profit Accelerator, make sure you visit plannerswhoprofit.com and apply. By the way, if you've already exceeded 100,000 in sales, please go ahead and apply, and we'll let you know all the information about joining the Planners Who Profit Mastermind, designed to take you to even higher heights. We look forward to seeing you on the inside, because life is so much better in the PWP squad. Welcome back, guys, to the podcast. I'm really excited to get into our next segment, and we're going to talk about getting to the money. Get into the money, get into the money. Go get the money, go get the money. Okay. This isn't a music podcast. So my question is like my favorite question to ask people. What was the moment in your business when you realized it was time to stop working just for passion and just for the love of it? And you realized that it needed to be both about the passion and the money. So like, if you could describe like what was going on in your business, on your life at that time, maybe how many years in you were at this point when you were like, something's got to change, right? And I'm ready to really make money from this business.
Yeah. So for me, that moment was about 4 years into the business. And I, at that point, really was just kind of just doing weddings and events here and there. But there wasn't a lot of focus. And that moment kind of came right after I had my daughter.
Mm-hmm.
And there was just this switch, right? It was kind of like, this is cute, but I really want to build something that I can really be proud of. And I really want to create a legacy that, a legacy for my family, for my daughter. And so once I had that moment, that light bulb turned on, there was, just kind of this slow burn of like working on becoming more visible, getting more of the type of experience that I wanted, focusing on just delivering, quality service, and then just, driving results, delivering results.
Nice. Okay. So that sounds good. I think that's a lot of people, I would say, are anywhere between like year 3 and year like maybe 7. Like somewhere in that marker is when people are like, listen, I've been doing this for a while. Like, I'm good at what I do, and I'm ready. I'm ready for more, right? And so what would you say are the main changes that you made that helped you to get to your first six-figure year? Like, what are some like things that some things that you tried or that you changed in your business that you feel like looking back on it really set you up for that, right?
Yeah. Well, one thing that you know very well is that my first 6-figure year was when I went through PWP. And so I would say a big change was actually joining the program. And I think kind of at that point, like I talked about some of the things I started doing at that 4-year mark, but I knew that I'd kind of taken the business as far as I could on my own. And I was getting a little exhausted with like trial and error and like wasting my money on random courses. And I just didn't really like have a strategy for how to get to where I was trying to go. So I joined in late 2020, and I think like the biggest immediate change was like I talked all about like my genesis story, right? Like how I got started, why I'm passionate about why I do what I do, but I wasn't articulating that. Like people didn't know. So I remember one of the first things we focused on was like our niche, like who are we serving? Why are we serving them? And that really resonated with me. And that's when I felt like a lot of things started clicking with potential clients. Like we were just gelling in a way that we hadn't before because it was clear who I was, clear what I was offering, and I was able to better attract the people who I could best serve. So I think just it wasn't so much as a change, it's just like helping me better articulate what it was that I did and who I wanted to serve. Um, I also learned so much about SEO and the value of really kind of owning your platform. I think I remember you saying something about like, Facebook, Instagram could all just like go away one day. And but you'll always have you'll always have your website, right? So really just kind of owning my platform and my website, and not having to depend just on social media to bring in clients. um, and then I think the other big changes were really just the like implementing true systems and processes, and really leaning into automation, especially as someone with a day job. Having my business work for me while I was working, was really helpful, right? Because when you're working with such limited amount of time and you're also balancing like family responsibilities too, you have to work smarter, and not harder. And so that was a really big change for me, just understanding the value of having these repeatable systems and processes in my business, was just a game changer for me.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I love that. And I mean, I think that everything you said is great. I mean, you joined the Planners Who Profit Accelerator in one of the first cohorts during a pandemic, and it was before cities even started reopening. Like, and
Mhm.
that's like probably one of my favorite things, like about like your story. It's like, people join, they get results, but it's like people were getting results before we were officially finding out, okay, cities are reopening, right? And I think that it matters what you believe. We talked a little bit before about beliefs. I think that there were some people who were just like sitting at home and listening to podcasts about how the event industry is doomed and, just woe is me conversations. And that for us, I was like, we're not doing woe is me over here. Like we're building, like we're going to continue building and we're going to be ready. When cities reopen, we're going to have overflow. We're going to make money, right? Like we're going to be in position. We're not going to be trying to catch up. And I love the fact that like you went for it. And obviously you were already believing in this for your own business as well. And that was how you came across the program and everything. But I think that that is really important, and I think that at the time of recording this podcast, we're in another period where a lot of people are talking about recessions and things that are going on. Again, you choose what you believe. You choose what you believe, right? In every recession, every down period, every period, there are always those people who come out on top. Like they come out making even more than they had in the past. And then there are those who just kind of like let the markets happen to them. And so you have to choose like what side of it you want to be on. And you also have to understand that the market's always going to go up and down. Like at a certain point we have to be honest. Like the news is very sensationalized on both sides. I'm not pointing to any specific point, but at a certain point you have to like sit down, and if you sit down and look at trends, the market's always going to go up and down. There are always going to be good parts and bad parts, and your goal is to build a solid business that thrives in both, right? That's
Mhm.
the end goal, and that's your mission. So I think that sometimes we focus too much on what's happening outside and as opposed to what's going on inside. And obviously for you were able to grow by focusing inward and on the things you can control, like controlling your own real estate. I believe you should have a self-marketing website. You should not have a website that only works for you when you post on social media for people to click the link in bio. You need a website that is working for you, even if you take a long social media break. Like in our company, I don't encourage anybody to do this, but I just gotta put it out there. But for personal reasons, I took a social media break for almost 4 months and we were still closing clients.
Mhm.
And the reason is because I don't rely entirely on social media to get leads, even though, yes, we have a lot of followers, right? That's not the only thing we rely on. And so at the end of the day, like that is what we believe in. That's a big part of like our marketing strategy is having a marketing cocktail. not one marketing stream, right? And having a cocktail where all the different things are working for you. I love that. And then I know you talked a lot about systems, which is, it's critical. I've shared before, I built a lot of the things that I teach now are things that I built while I had a demanding IT management job. I was managing an IT team, managing deployments, evening deployments, weekend deployments, managing stakeholders, sometimes dealing with emergencies, all of that stuff while being in 7-Eleven ministries and church. I also generally don't miss family obligations. So traveling to Jersey or wherever else for things going on, and while also producing anywhere from 15 to 20 weddings a year.
Mm.
Right. And the only thing that allowed this to work for me is that one day I woke up and said, you know what? If I'm going to be just as good as a lot of people who are full time, I have to be more efficient. It's the only way. My only way out, the only way I'm going to work myself out of a day job is to be more efficient than everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
It's literally because I can't create, manufacture more time, and I don't want to sacrifice my social life. The
Mm-hmm.
only way is for me to be more efficient without sacrificing the quality of my work. Right. And so I think that me real having that epiphany helped me to build systems that I was able to share with other people. And I think that's critical for anyone out there who's like, oh man, that sounds great. 6-figure business. You got to become more efficient,
Mm.
because if you're overwhelmed by the 2 or 3 clients you have right now, getting to the point of, 10, 15, however many you want to do a year, it's just not going to be possible. So that's something to keep in mind. Yeah, so
Yeah.
I love that. Did you have anything to add on that? Because I feel like we talked about a whole lot there.
No, I just, yeah, I think it's so powerful, what you were just sharing about systems and efficiency, and really just tying back to that point of just really truly working smarter, not
Yeah.
harder. That's the goal.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah, and having systems that actually work, not just randomly automating things because you're
yes.
the systems that actually work, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's what's going to work. I love that. And so on that note, like talking about marketing, what would you say? What lead sources have worked best for you in your business? Like where do you get the most of your leads? People ask me this all the time. Like, is it social media? Has it been Google search? Has it been something else like listing sites, referrals? Like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure you get a mix of all of these. But what do you feel like has been like your favorite lead source in your business?
Yeah. So definitely get leads from like all of the sources. I do not pay for any advertising. Um, that was definitely an early career thing I did, which probably a lot of planners do, right? Signing up for one of the big wedding box sites, and hoping that leads will come in that way. Um, but I honestly just find the most success with leads that are coming in through Google search, as well as referrals. So I find that the Google search leads, those are coming by way of the work that we're doing to talk about our work online, to showcase past weddings, to share our planning expertise through blogs. And then the referrals are coming in because we have delivered on results for our past clients, and they are really truly our biggest champions to their friends and family that are getting married. And then with our vendor partners, so really taking the time to cultivate relationships with vendors who we want to do more business with in the future, as well as venues where we want to work, and where we'd either want to work for the first time or want to return to. So that's where I put the most energy into, and it's nice that I reap the most rewards. And I mentioned, we get leads from other sources as well, but I would say highest quality leads are coming as a result of those
Mhm.
efforts, because I'm certainly getting Instagram leads and um, things like that, but they maybe are not always the highest converting or the most quality, or aligned leads all the
Mhm.
time.
Yeah, yeah. I say that the best lead source is, as far as online marketing is actually Google search. And it's a lot of people just struggle to wrap their minds around it, especially if you're someone who spends a lot of time on social media. But the truth is that a lot of people go on social media just to pass time. right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, yes, you can be very loud and still not be reaching the right people. And again, I believe that social media should be part of your marketing cocktail. We've had some
Mm-hmm.
excellent clients come through there as well. You need the cocktail, but I think that if you rely only on social media, I can see how that can become a struggle, right,
Yeah.
in your business, right? And so that's not so that I love. And then definitely referrals. You know, we've gotten a lot of our amazing clients have come by referrals, and I would still put this in the category of referrals, but they were just guests or
Mm-hmm.
bridal party
Mm-hmm.
members, right, at events that we did. So maybe they didn't go to the person and say, "Can you give me a referral?" But they were just like, "Oh, you know what? I have her email or I have whatever earmarked because I attended an event." And so that's great too. You know, the best marketing is just doing a good job. Like you said, you
Mm-hmm.
know, my father told me that a long time ago when I first started in business, and he's an accountant. So he saw how much money I was spending in marketing, like you said, first starting out, paying, you know, thinking that if I pay a lot of money for someone to send me leads, I'm going to make more money. My dad said, you don't need to do any of this. What you do is literally self marketing, right? Going
Mm-hmm.
out there and doing it is literally self marketing. I didn't listen at the time because I was being hard headed. But it came back and hit me a couple years later. And I was like, you know what? He was on to something there, you know? You know, and I mean, literally everything my dad has told me about business has turned out to be true, but I was just hard headed and I wanted to do things my way.
Mm-hmm.
And it's self marketing if you actually do a good job, right? I think a
Mm-hmm.
lot of times we, you know, and I don't want to miss this. Our program is called Planners Who Profit, but we don't only teach you how to get leads. We also teach you how to be efficient in the actual planning process, keep people in the loop, and make sure that you get a good result at the end. Because there's no point in doing all this marketing and then having a whole bunch of 2-star reviews. And there's like that at the end of the day, you're just sabotaging, you know, your own
Mm-hmm.
business, and that's not. There's no way that's going to last. So at a certain point, like, you know, it's got to be both, right? And so I absolutely love that. And yeah, we have some venues that always send us leads. Like, we love it, right? Doing a good job makes people say, you know what, go talk to her because I want to work with her again. You know, I love, you know, when you walk into a tasting meeting and they're like, oh, your planner is fat. Oh yeah, I forgot. Yeah, your face. Oh, you'll be good. Yeah, well, this is gonna be easy. You know, and you see the way clients' faces light up when they're like, oh snap, just because. Oh, okay. So I guess I mean, I thought I was in good hands before.
Right.
Okay, if this is how y'all react to her, then I'm in good hands. That's what you want. That's what the reputation you want for your business, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
Love it, love it, love it. Okay. And then also, what advice, right, would you give to a planner who's ready to make real money and like actually pay themselves from their business? One of the first activities that I work on with coaching clients is we're going to figure out how to start paying yourself pretty much now. I don't care if it's $200 a month. Start paying yourself, make it consistent, and give yourself a raise in 6 months,
Mm-hmm.
and again in 6 months. So, what advice would you give to someone who's like, "Ooh, I'm trying to start paying myself, get in the habit of that, you know, so that I can work my way out of my day job, or just have two incomes? Because there's nothing wrong with that too. So I don't. There's nothing wrong with that.
Mm-hmm.
And so, what advice would you give to someone who's in that category?
Yeah. Um, well, yeah, I definitely have experience with this because there was a lot of time in my business where I was making money. You know, money was coming in, but you know, I had to pay assistants, I had to pay expenses, or you know, I told myself I was reinvesting money in the business. So you know, it's like instead of paying myself, I was going to pay for you know some random thing that I thought was going to be like the elixir to all of my troubles. And you know, eventually it would pay off. But you know, everybody was getting paid except for me. And planning was just this really, really cute but expensive hobby. So I think it was so important for me to shift my perspective and my mindset, um, and kind of get out of this place of, for me, what I think a lot of it was like imposter syndrome in many ways. Like, oh, I'm not yet at where this other planner who I really like and admire is in their business, or at least where I thought they were. So it's okay that I'm not getting paid maybe what they're getting paid right now because like I'm not there yet. I just got to pay my dues, and you know I'll get there one day, and I'll have the kind of weddings I really want, and you know eventually make money. Um, so I would say like my biggest piece of advice is just shifting your mindset. Like you can make that money today. You know, if you want it, you can absolutely make that money today. But I think what you were just saying too about um, actually like honing your craft and getting good at it and you know, taking the time to understand what it means to run a successful business is as equally important as shifting your mindset because you know there are a lot of planners who are out here who are not always delivering the best experience, not always delivering the best service. So I think it's so important to also take that time to really truly hone your craft and do what you do well, so that you can command the kind of prices that will put more profit into your pocket.
100%. 100%. I love that answer. Like focusing both on your mindset, like being ready to move, but also your mindset, like in delivery, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then also go out there and get, go out there and get the things that you need, the support that you need.
Mm-hmm.
I would say, not to be shady, but I do think that it's going to be very difficult to close like a $10,000 client when your whole business is running in Microsoft Word, right? Like it's like at a certain point, like you need to step up and you need to invest in the things that you need, right? You need
Mm-hmm.
to actually invest in an assistant, probably two, as opposed to still showing up with one and like making an assistant an add-on or something, right? You need to pay money for systems that run smoothly and that give people the access that they need. You probably need a coach, right, to help you to get all your ducks in a row, figure out how to market, get everything working for you so that you have that foundation for the remainder of your business.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that if you work with a good coach, that investment should really pay off for the rest of for the life cycle of your business, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
that doesn't mean that you don't need different things at different levels. You may need other things, and that's okay. But the thing you invested in this time should work for the long cycle. And this goes back to what we just talked about paid marketing, right? The paid marketing sites. As soon as you stop paying those listing sites, your leads dry up. So if
Yeah.
that's the only thing that you are relying on, it's not really that sustainable unless you keep paying them. And then also there's the other part of most people who are going on those listing sites are comparing 50 vendors and just choosing the cheapest one. So it's difficult to then command top dollar there too. It's a lot of people who are price shopping. But when you invest in your business, right, like that's what you're doing with coaching, you're investing in your business so that you have a website that brings in leads forever,
Mm-hmm.
right? So that you have systems and you know how to efficiently run a wedding that runs excellently. So you save so much time. You can take on four weddings in the time that you spent doing one. You're commanding more money. And these are things that serve you for the life cycle of your business, right? So these are things that I would recommend, like definitely focusing inward. Every time I take the time to focus inward, building up myself, my mindset,
Mm-hmm.
my business, my structures, the things that I own, I've always reaped the benefit, right? And so I think that that's really what everyone needs to do, right, to get to that next level. So that's amazing. We are almost to the end, but we're going to have one brief break before we get to our final nuggets for everyone that's tuning in. So enjoy the brief break, and we'll be back very shortly. If you've been enjoying this podcast, it is time for you to join the PWP squad. And you can do that today 100% free. Visit PWP Workshop, and that'll give you everything that you need to sign up for our vault of free trainings on marketing, sales, and systems designed to get you started on your journey to your first 100K in business. All right, we're back for the finale. Got some fun questions for you. So I guess for starters, could you describe either a typical day or a typical week in your business? Like, what does that look like at a high level for people who are like, oh man, how does she do it all? What does that look like? Like, what does that look like? Like office hours, maybe. I don't know, just how you time block. Just what does that normally look like?
Yeah. So I love time blocking. And that was another strategy I picked up through PWP, which is so important for me as someone that is just managing a lot of things, is setting specific periods of time during my week to dedicate to specific tasks. So I have 2 days a week that are set aside for new client calls, as well as planning calls with existing clients. And what I love about having those dedicated times is like I can get my head right to have those specific conversations. Like I know I'm going to be in salesy mode during a specific time block, and then I know I'm going to be in kind of client nurturing and guiding mode during a different time block. So I'm not all over the place just taking sales calls whenever. And it's really helpful for me, especially as I'm just navigating other responsibilities during the day. Um, and I also set aside some dedicated time. It usually ends up being about 30 minutes to an hour every day that I'm dedicating to either content creation or engagement online. It's really important for me that I'm not pulling my focus from other things to be on social media all day, um, especially because it's important for me to be there, but it's not necessarily a big money driver for me. So I like to limit my time on those platforms to specific times of day. And I also like to be as strategic as possible about what I'm doing there. So I know, okay, I need to go and engage with at least 10 other people's accounts and, see what people are up to, share some like love and comments and encouragement. And then I'm getting out of there. I also like to schedule content when I can. So I'm, again, not living on social media apps, but I like to do that kind of during that 1 hour content block during the day. Um, and then I usually dedicate the end of my week. Fridays are like a really flexible day for me. So I like to use Fridays to go on site visits, maybe at venues where I haven't worked before and I'm interested in working, or I'm spending that time to cultivate relationships with other vendors. Or I do what I call like my CEO task. So that may be like big picture things that I want to do or need to work on in the business. And I have a bigger amount of time to really dedicate to getting those things done during my CEO days. But yeah, it's kind of like a typical week. Of course, wedding weeks are a little bit crazier, just prepping and getting ready for that. And of course, time on site, but it's kind of average
Yeah,
week.
of course. That's amazing. And you mentioned CEO days. So I saw a meme on social media that was like, a lot of people are out here calling themselves CEOs and they don't have any other officers. And very shady, very, very shady. But it did make me laugh.
It's
Uh,
funny.
so on that note, I did want to acknowledge that you are an actual CEO. So can you that you're an actual CEO. So could you share a little bit about like maybe just just brief high overview of like who, what your team looks like?
Yeah. So, in addition to myself, there are other lead planners on my team. So, they are executing their own weddings, whether that's full or most commonly wedding management clients. And there's also a lead designer on my team who assists with designs for all of our full planning clients. And then, in addition to that, those staff members, there are um, day of assistants that are supporting us on site during events. I also have a recent addition to the team, which is our operations manager. So she's doing a lot of kind of like client management, does a lot of interfacing with vendors, especially as we're getting closer to wedding days and taking care of requirements and gathering information, um, which is really helpful for me just as I step in to kind of put everything in a bow. But yeah, that's the team.
I love it. I love it. So, guys, like I said, there's levels, right? There's making money, there's getting more full service weddings, and then there's having a team. Like you can literally have all of these things as long as you can envision it. So thanks for sharing what your
Yeah,
team looks like, just so people can see like there are actual people doing this, right?
yeah,
It's not just one person. We have a team as well that we love. We're going to get to hear from a couple of them in a future episode, but it's also, I like for people to be able to see like, this is, you can duplicate this, like you can do this, like if you can believe it, you can grow to this stage. So I love the way you've been growing your team.
Thank you.
Um, all right. So what was your favorite part? I know you, well, actually, let me rewind. What are your favorite wedding customs? So I know you've done a lot of different things, but what, if you could pick maybe one, two, maybe three max, just wedding customs that
Okay.
you've seen and that you just loved?
Okay. And it's gonna be like any wedding, it can be multicultural wedding, any wedding.
Yeah.
Um, so I will say one of the traditions I really love is actually a Spanish cultural tradition, which is the lasso ceremony, and that is when either a rosary is placed around the couple's shoulders, or a lot of more modern couples now, they're like making lassos out of like greenery or flower garland, which I think is really beautiful to kind of tie in kind of more elegant design element into the ceremony. But the lasso is in the shape of an infinity symbol. And usually the lasso ceremony incorporates like the couple's godparents, or, someone who serves in kind of a um, maybe religious role in the couple's life.
Mhm.
And I just love that the infinity symbol, kind of symbolizes this idea of being together for an eternity and lasting love. I just think that's such a beautiful symbolic element of Spanish wedding ceremonies. I haven't done this at a wedding yet, but I attended a friend's wedding where this was a Korean wedding, and they did a payback ceremony, like the day before the actual like white wedding, where both the bride and the groom were in traditional Korean garb. And the ceremony really is all about kind of like honoring your parents. So they're ceremonially like bowing to their parents, and then there's also this really kind of fun, silly part of the ceremony where chestnuts and dates are being thrown, and they have to catch them, and how many ever they catch is like that's how many kids they're going to have. So I think it's just a really fun way to kind of kick off a Korean wedding weekend or ceremony, and then kind of honoring the Black wedding tradition a little bit. I live for a good line dance, and give me a swag surf, give me a wobble for appropriate like 3 minutes, no longer. And I'm living. So I feel like the dance floor is always a vibe at Black American weddings for sure.
Yes, absolutely. I love it. I love it. I love your traditions. I would say mine, one would be definitely the hora dance at Jewish weddings,
Mhm.
like where
Mhm.
both the bride and groom are on chairs and people are carrying it and kind of bouncing them up and down in a crowd. It is safe because everybody crowds around them. So even if someone was to fall, which I've never seen anyone fall, they'd fall on a bunch of people who are catching them. So it's safe. It's so
It's
much
true.
fun.
This
It's
is
so much
true.
energy. Love watching that. I remember we had a Jewish and Nigerian wedding where they did that, and it was so much fun
Mm.
just to watch them up
Mhm.
there. Um, I also love Ethiopian weddings. There's a custom where in the beginning of the day, you go to the bride's mom's house, like the groom comes to the bride's mom's house to basically ask for the bride. And there are people on the other side, like pulling the door closed and they're trying to push it open. And it's like a whole thing, right? And normally the groom comes with someone who's playing an instrument. It's very festive. There's a lot of back and forth. When he finally comes in, he has flowers or a gift for the bride. Everyone eats and then we go to the wedding. It's basically like the party before the party. And I just, every time we do it, it's so much fun, just to
Mhm.
and to experience that. Um, so yeah, I mean, I love that. There's so many others. I'm like, oh, how do I pick a third? I may not. I may just choose not to. But I mean, there's just so many,
Yeah.
fun traditions with every culture and every wedding, which we just love to see. Of course, jumping the broom is something I love to see with our, African
Mhm.
American couples. It's always fun to see and experience that too. Okay, so do you have any final thoughts? You've already shared so much about like how being in the PWP accelerator has helped you in your business, and you kind of shared a lot of details about like structures, marketing, different things that you learned. But do you have any closing thoughts about like just how that's helped you, or anything for anyone who's listening to keep in mind?
Yeah. What I really appreciated about the program was that kind of going into it, I had a good expectation about what I was going to get out of it. Just how everything was broken down into the different modules. Like I knew, this week we were focusing on marketing, and then we were focusing on niche, and we were focusing on systems. And so, sometimes with programs, you don't really know. You're kind of taking a gamble. You're like, all right, well, I think, they said we were going to focus on this. So I hope that's what happens. But with PWP, it was really clearly outlined what I could expect, what the outcomes from each of the modules were going to be. So that really helped me stay focused. And it was also really reassuring, making that kind of investment, and but knowing what you're going to get out of it was really important. And then also just all of the built-in support from you and your team, and knowing just kind of as you're navigating different things in your business that you had someone like you with the experience that you do to just like run things by you and get your expert opinion on and feedback on, was incredibly valuable. And it was like very detailed feedback. It was actually helpful and made whatever I was working on at the time all the more better for it. So those are definitely some more kind of takeaways from my experience.
I love it. I love it. And I mean, of course, it was great working with you, always great pulling you back in for different things, events and stuff, and also just watching your business grow and everything. So on that note, do you have any final tips for planners out there? I'm sure there are others listening too, but for the planners, the event planners who are listening, like, do you have any final parting words for them?
Yeah, I think it's just so important in this probably very oversaturated field, um, to just be you, and to maybe not get so caught up in doing what other people are doing or trying to emulate what you think someone else's version of success is, but to really be you and focus on what makes you special and different and may be appealing to a client or a couple to want to work with you. And then I think the other thing is just to be consistent. To be consistent in what you say you want to achieve in your business, and I think that's where you'll really see growth and you'll see success.
Mhm. That's awesome. I love it. Well, thank you so much, Courtney-Rose, for
Yeah.
gracing us with your presence. I'm sure everyone who's listened has gleaned so much from this conversation. And of course, we've reached the end. So I'm sure that you know why I've invited her. And I'm sure you have plenty of notes and all that good stuff. Please do us a favor. If you're, make sure, depending on what platform you're watching or listening on, make sure you like, you subscribe, you leave a review. Just let everyone know how great this has been, and more is to come. All right, so we're excited to have you here. I hope you've been enjoying the Planners Who Profit podcast so far, and we can't wait to see you again in a future episode. Till then, ciao and have an eventful week.